Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, The Freelance Life. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome, and for those of you who are returning, welcome back. I'm Jen, and I am a freelance graphic designer, illustrator, and educator based out of the Midwest, and I run Bella and Sophia Creative Studio. On this channel, you will find in-depth creative tutorials relating to design, creative business, and illustration. I also share a behind-the-scenes view of the work that I do as a creative freelancer and educator. Today, I'm coming back with another Procreate tutorial. A couple of months ago, I walked you through my process for creating a GIF using Clip Studio Paint, and today I'm going to show you my process of creating sticker GIFs, which basically have like transparent backgrounds, using Procreate. I love being able to do simple animation using my iPad all in one shot on the go without having to take my work to a computer. Procreate is an incredibly strong app, and it really takes you beyond simple illustration and design work, and it allows you to create 2D animation using its animation assist function. You can use these GIFs for video work as overlays or load them to GIPHY for use on apps like Instagram and Facebook. Let's get started. So for this tutorial, you are going to need a few supplies, basically an iPad, your stylus, I use the Apple Pencil 2, and of course the app Procreate. So before we jump into actually creating our animated GIF, I wanted to go over what a GIF is. So in its simplest form, a GIF is just an image file. So like a JPEG or a PNG file format. The GIF format can be used to make still images, but the GIF format has a special feature. It can also be used to create animated images. So the idea is that it works similar to how a classic flipbook would work. Multiple pages with images changed just slightly on each page that will move when looped, or in this case of a computer, decoded in a certain way. So in the GIPHY app, you can create two different styles of GIFs, your traditional GIF and a sticker GIF. So they just basically both mean files of moving images. With your traditional GIF, it'll loop endlessly, playing over and over again, but it usually has a background, whether it's a color background, white background, or what have you. But a sticker is a GIF or an animation with a transparent background. So like the ones that you use in your Instagram stories. And these are really popular when it comes to social media. You can add them as overlays. The transparency just gives you it gives you an additional layer of design finesse when you are creating with them. So we are going to be focusing on a sticker today. Before we jump into actually designing these, there are some things that I want you to keep in mind. GIPHY has some best practices when it comes to uploading. You obviously don't necessarily have to upload these files to GIPHY if you don't want to. You can use them directly from your photo roll on your phone. But I'm going to show you this process because it allows you to reach a wide range of people on the GIPHY platform, which is fantastic. You can create a sticker really easily by turning off the background layer of your GIF canvas in the application you're working with, in our case, Procreate. Stickers have to be exported with transparency. There can't be any white background or color background in order for it to be a sticker. Stickers on GIPHY must move, so they have to be animated. So you want to make sure to include the absolute at minimum of 2 frames per sticker. You also want to make sure you crop the canvas to fit the sticker. So stickers exported with too much empty space around them, around the frame, will appear really small when they're uploaded. And also keep in mind, uploads are limited to 100 megabytes and 15 seconds. You have to set your GIF to loop forever before exporting it, because obviously you don't want it to stop. It has to keep going endlessly. And you can use whatever resolution that makes your sticker look best. They automatically resize your uploads for uses in various contexts. So they recommend using multiples of 4 for width and height, but that's not necessary. I'm gonna keep our canvas rather large, 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. I'm just gonna do a square, and then we can crop down if needed at 300 dpi. All right, so now let's jump into actually creating these GIFs in Procreate on our iPad. So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is launch the Procreate app. And once we're in Procreate, we're in our general gallery view. In the upper right-hand corner, we're gonna hit that little plus icon. And we're going to select new canvas by hitting that little rectangle with a plus in it. And we are going to set up a canvas that is just 2000 by 2000 pixels. And we want to make sure the DPI is at 300. And then we're going to hit create. So this is going to set up a new canvas for us to work in. The big thing you want to keep in mind is that with the sticker GIF we're going to be creating, we want to not have a background. So the easiest way to do that is just to go into your layers, and where is this background color? Uncheck mark it, and then you'll see everything kind of goes gray, and this is basically going to have a transparency. But what I like to do is work with the background just to start so that I can see what I'm doing on my screen. It makes it a little bit easier as I'm drawing, and then I can turn it off at the end when I'm exporting it. So the first thing that I like to do is set up our function. So set up our animation assist. So to turn on animation assist, we're going to go to the little wrench icon, and then we're going to go to canvas, and we're going to toggle to the right the animation assist, and it's going to basically turn on the settings so that all of our layers become our frames in our animation, and it also will allow for our onion skinning, which allows you to see the layer below the one that you're currently working on. So I'll just show you really quick so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go into my layers here on the upper right hand side. I'm going to hit the little plus icon. I already have one layer, but I'm going to create another layer, and what you'll notice is at the bottom 2 frames have been added. And then what you'll see is if I go to layer 1, and I'm just going to draw something really basic on it so it's easy to see, like this circle, when I tap on layer 2, it basically decreases the opaqueness of this, and it makes it a little bit more transparent so that I can see what I'm doing when I'm drawing on top of it. And then if you hit this little play icon, it'll basically toggle through the 2 layers that are just slightly different to create this kind of like jittery circle. Or I'm just going to click on that layer, tap the actual icon of the image, and I'm going to select clear, go to my second layer, click on the icon of the image, I'll get this pop-up, and then select clear again, and it'll clear both those layers. So now that we have our canvas all set up, what I want to do is duplicate our layers a couple more times. So I'm just going to click on layer 2, swipe left, and then hit duplicate, and then swipe left again and hit duplicate once more, and I'll have 4 layers total. I'm going to go in and rename these just to keep myself organized. This will be layer 1, 2, and then I'm going to select where it says layer 2 again. I'm going to click on the gray rectangle there, and I'm going to select rename, and I'm just going to change it to layer 3. And then hit return, and then I'm going to go to my final layer, layer 4, and do the exact same thing. So now what I want to do is go down to layer 1, and I'm going to create my original illustration. So since it's fall, I'm going to be creating some really simple fall-inspired animated mushrooms. I have some other concepts for some leaves and pumpkins as well, but we're going to be working on the mushrooms together. So when it comes to creating these animations and working on these original illustrations, the things you want to keep in mind is that whatever elements your illustration will have that are animated, those elements should be on their own separate layers. So I know we created 4 layers total. We may end up needing to add more, but just keep in mind that whatever element is going to be changed, adjusted, edited, it should be on its own layer. So we're going to be drawing some basic mushrooms. I'm just going to use the basic studio pen so I have a nice clean line and nice clean shapes. So I'm going to start with the mushroom heads here. Once I have a shape that I'm happy with, I'm going to take my color and drag it into that line work, and it will fill for me. And I think I'm going to do a smaller top underneath here. And then same thing, I'm just going to drag the color and drop it. I'm just going to clean up anything that looks like it didn't completely fill, as well as clean up any of my lines that I might want to adjust. And then I'm going to add the little white spots. And in this case, because it is a little bit of a detail, it doesn't necessarily have to be the same brush. You could use something that has a little bit more texture to it, like a dry ink brush. If we go into our inking tools or inking brush library, I'm going to select the dry ink brush because it has a nice kind of like a bit of texture to it. And I think that'll work nicely with this. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go to my next layer, and that is going to be the layer that I'm going to have the mushroom stalks on. So I'm going to keep that white, and just to make it easier to see, I'm going to turn off my background right now. And then I'm going to utilize that studio pen again so that I have a nice clean shape that I'm working with. I'm actually going to put this up at the top. I'm going to reorder these layers so that I have layer 1 at the top, layer 2 underneath, layer 3, and then layer 4. Create a basic stalk, really simple. Again, simple shapes, simpler the better. Once I create that shape, I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to drag the color in, and then I'm going to move to the right to fill it into the edges. I'm going to do the same thing with this shorter mushroom, and then drag it in and fill that shape. So now I know you're noticing that the white is overlapping the red, and you can see I want the red to be overlapping the white. So what you'll want to do in this case is select these two layers because they're part of the same kind of like character piece. So they're both part of the mushroom. So I'm going to select layer 1, tap on it, and then drag right and select layer 2. And then I'm going to group these two elements, and then that will group them together so that everything is overlapped how I would like it to be. And I'm going to rename this group mushrooms. And now I'm going to move on to adding some details to the stalk. I want to add a little bit of texture to the mushroom stalks here. I'm going to go into my color picker tool. I'm going to bring it down to just like about kind of like a more of a grayish white. And then I'm going to go into my brush library again. I'm going to select dry ink. And then I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to add a little bit of texture to the stalk here. And again, keeping in mind I need to close this shape. And then I'm going to drag that color in. And if you find that it flood fills all of your stalk and you don't want that, just drag your pen to the left and it will decrease the threshold so that it doesn't completely fill the rest of your shape. I just want a little bit of additional color here and some texture. So it gives us just some interest. I'm going to do the same thing to this stalk over here. So now that I'm done with that, this is what our little mushrooms will look like. Now I'm going to go into my next layer, layer 3, and I'm going to add some flowers to this. And what I'm going to end up animating are these mushroom heads so that they kind of like jiggle back and forth. And then I'm going to animate the flowers that I'm going to add. So I'm going to add the flower, like the petals first, and then the leaves and the green parts on another layer. So let's go back to our studio pen. I'm going to update my colors to kind of like a deep purple. And then I'm just going to draw some really basic, simple flowers. And then I'm going to update the color, the inside of the petal. And I'm going to change my brush to that dry ink brush for a little bit of texture. And then I think I'm going to resize this down just a bit and rotate it. And to do that, I'm going to select my arrow tool, and this will give me my resize option. So I'm just going to drag in from the corner, and I'm just going to resize this just a bit. I'm going to create another flower closer to the shorter mushroom here, still on that same layer because I'm going to have the flowers move together and the mushroom tops move together. And then I think I'm going to add one more flower using this yellow this time. Go back to my studio pen and then create something that's just a little different in terms of the overall shape. I'll go in and zoom in just to refine just a bit. And now I've created the flower head. So now I'm going to go into layer 4 and I'm going to add in my stems. I'm going to select from my color picker tool here a really kind of like darker foresty green to go well with that purple and red. And then again, just using that studio pen still, I'm going to go in and add some leaf elements to each of these flowers. So I'm just going to add a stem. I'm going to keep it really simple. And then I'm going to add some leaves, create that shape, take my color picker, drag and drop. And then another one on the other side. Doesn't have to be the exact same size. Could be smaller even. Create that shape and then drag and drop and fill. Now I'm going to update my green just a bit so that I can add some details to the original leaves that we've drawn, but then also do something a little different for the yellow pieces over here. So still on that same layer, I'm going to update my color. I'm just going to lighten it just a bit. And then I'm going to add the line work for the stem for this flower here. And then I'm going to use the same color to add some detail work, like lines to these leaves here. Once I'm done with that, what I'll want to do is group the leaves and the flowers together as well. So I'm going to select my flower pieces here and then drag right and select the layer with the leaves. And then I'm going to hit group and it'll group them all together. And now we have all of the pieces for our illustration. So now what we'll want to do, it's going to be really simple, is we're going to be duplicating of our mushrooms and of our flower heads in order to animate them. You can rename each of these groups as you need. I'm just going to go back through and just update it to say mushroom 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so we're going to start with just animating the mushroom. So I'm going to turn off my flowers for now and we'll worry about them in a little bit. So I'm going to go up to my first mushroom. This is going to be the starting point. And if you look at all of these groups, you'll now see at the bottom here, they are all added to the frame. So each mushroom has its own frame. So I'm going to go to mushroom 1. This is going to be our starting point, and we're not going to change anything. We're just going to keep it as is. And then we'll go to mushroom 2. We'll select the little drop down arrow, and we're going to select our mushroom 2 toppers, and we're going to select our arrow tool, and it will give us all of our transform functions. So you can just simply transform things and like use the little rotator arm here and rotate them left or right if you want it to just kind of go jiggly left and right. Or we can do things like distort, and it will allow us to distort the image. So you could stretch it or pull it in. You can warp things as well. But just to make things easy, we're just going to do like a really simple adjustment using the move tool to make it go to the right. And then we'll close that layer, and then we'll go to mushroom 3 and we'll select the topper there, and we'll select our transform tool, our little arrow tool, and I'm just going to distort it just a little bit, and then I'm going to have it go to the left since we went to the right already. And then we're going to go to mushroom 4 and then just repeat that process. Select that topper, go into our arrow tool, work with our transform tools. I'm just going to distort it again just a little bit by pulling up at the top and at the bottom, and maybe to the right and to the left to kind of increase the size. And then I'm just going to adjust the rotation just slightly. All right, and then when I'm done, I'm going to close that, and then we can play and test to see what this looks like. So I'm going to hit play, and you can see already it's starting to kind of like bobble, but you can go into your settings as well and adjust your settings. You can lower them so that it slows down. All right, so we have our mushroom animated. So now what we'll want to do is animate our flower. So just like what we did before, we're going to need to make copies of the original sketch. So I'm going to turn on these flowers, and I'm actually going to bring these up top so that they're in front of everything. And then what we're going to do is make 4 copies. All right, once I've renamed everything, what we'll want to do now is associate each flower group with a mushroom group. And the reason we do this is because what you'll notice is down here in our frames, each layer is a frame. So what it would essentially do is play the animation separate. So what we want to do is make sure that the flowers are associated with the mushroom. So I'm going to pause this. Go back to my layers, take flower 1 and drag it so that it is underneath mushroom 1. Take flower 2, drag it so that it's underneath mushroom 2. Take flower 3, drag it so that it's underneath mushroom 3, and then take flower 4 and drag it so that it is underneath mushroom 4. And then what we'll do is we're going to select each of those groups, and then we're going to group them all together. And I'm just going to name these together 1, together 2, together 3, and so on. Now you'll see all of the elements are grouped together, and if we turn off these other layers, you'll see that we have the mushrooms and the flowers all together on one layer, so it'll play together versus each element playing separately within our frames. But what you notice is that the mushrooms are covering the flowers. We want the flowers on top, so we'll just open up the layer that we're on and select the flower group and bring it so that it's on top of the mushroom group. And we'll just do that for each of these layers. All right, so now we have basically 4 pictures. And if we were to turn these on all at the same time, you'll see those 4 layers, those 4 group layers are showing up as 4 frames in the bottom portion here. And if we hit play, it will show the animation of the actual mushroom tops. But now what we want to do is animate the flowers. So let's pause that. Let's go into our first group, open up our flower group, and let's go to the flower heads here and select the flower blooms here. And just like what we did with the mushroom heads, we'll utilize our transform tools, and we can rotate and we can distort, and we can utilize any of these transform tools to kind of create movement within the flowers. So just like I said, we can do something simple as just rotating to the left or right, and then we can also distort the shape as well by just pulling and resizing. So I'm going to do that for this second option here. We'll want to go into the second group, so together 2, open that up, go into our flower group here, open that up, and then go into the layer with the flower petals on it. And we'll select our arrow tool so that we get our transform functions, and then just like what we did with the mushroom tops, we can just utilize the rotation tools here to rotate. And if you have distort selected, you can just slightly distort the size of the flower and keep it really simple in terms of movement. Now let's go to together 3, open that up, click on that little drop down arrow, select flower 3, select the drop down arrow, go to the petals, and since I rotated it to the right, I'm going to rotate it to the left this time. And then I'm just going to distort it just slightly by pulling out the sides. Go back into my layers panel, close together 3, go into together 4, hit the drop down arrow, select my flowers, select the drop down arrow, and then select the petals, and then click on my arrow tool. And then again, utilize the rotate function just to rotate things just slightly back the other way, so to the right this time, and then use the distort function to just kind of distort the size of the flowers just slightly. All right, so now that we have the flower petals all animated and everything is all together, let's play and see what it looks like. Alright, I think I like that. It's really simple, really easy. You're just using shapes and lines, and then utilizing your transform tools to transform those shapes to create movement. And once we loop this, this is what our final animation looks like. We have our background turned off. So you'll want to go into your layers. If your background is still on, go into your layers, select your background color, and just uncheck mark it so that is off, and then you want to make sure all of your layers are check marked on. You'll see your 4 groups here, and you should see your 4 frames here. Now what we want to do is export it. So we'll go to our wrench icon, and we're going to select share. And what we want to do is scroll down to the bottom, and what we'll select is animated GIF. You can do any additional like testing, revisions here. You want to make sure transparent background is turned on. And then what we can do is export it. I like to export it at max resolution. My file size is only 4.8 megabytes. You can upload up to 100 on GIPHY, so I think this will be just fine. Once we're done, we're going to hit export, and it will export the file. You can save it directly as an image to your photo roll, and then you'll be able to access it. If you have a GIPHY account, you can just select GIPHY, and then you can just upload it directly to GIPHY. You can upload to GIPHY, and then you can add your tags. You can add your tags, and then you can just hit you agree to the terms of service. Make sure it's public. You can choose private if you want, and then you can hit upload to GIPHY. You can also select share, export as an animated GIF, hit export, and then you can save it to your files, and or you can email it to yourself, or you can airdrop it to your computer. I'm just going to save it as an image as well. What you'll find is if you go into your image gallery, it will be there. So this is the most recent image, and it is animated, and you can send this to yourself. You can load it to Instagram as well. If we go into Instagram and we hit the plus icon, you can create a story. And I'm just gonna pick a plain color for this. And once you do this, if you add an image, you can add stickers. So if you hit the little sticker icon, you can search. So you could search the words like fall vibes, and you get all kinds of stickers. You could even, so in my case, I have a verified account. So if you search Jen from the block, my stickers will pop up. But even if you don't get approved for something like that, you can still use your general GIPHY account to copy GIFs, stickers, and just GIFs in general and add them. So I'll go to GIPHY, and then I'll go to my account, and I have all of my stickers already here. So I uploaded some new fall ones. So if I select one of those stickers and then I hold down, I'm going to select copy GIF, and then you'll see it's copied because it turns in green. And then if I swipe up and I go into my Instagram, I'll get the little pop-up here, and it will paste it, and it'll allow me to add my GIFs to my Instagram story even without having to search for them in the sticker API or having a verified account. So you can still use them. You can also go to your photos, share that GIF file, and you can airdrop it to your device. So I'm going to airdrop it to my phone, and now I have it on my phone. And I can hit the share icon on my device, and I can just select copy photo. And then I can go into Instagram again, and that'll pop up in the lower left-hand corner, and then it will add it to my story. And I don't necessarily need to have that GIPHY account. It's great though. I always highly suggest that you utilize GIPHY because it gives you access to a really wide array of people and a large audience. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and if you end up making your own GIFs and loading them to GIPHY, feel free to share a link to your account or the GIFs in the comments below. I'd love to see what you made. You can also follow me over on GIPHY at Jen from the Block. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and if you are not already, make sure you subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on my latest tutorials, course launches, and of course studio vlogs. If you're looking for other ways to connect with me, you can find me online at www.bellasophiacreative.com. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.